everybody agrees that people need the relevant skills to be employable and to thrive and to meet the needs of the labor market today. At the Federation of Kenya Employers, we want to see a very clear link to the skills that we are producing in our learning institutions and the current and future needs of the labor market, skills forecasting. How do we do that? I think we all know that the current approach to skills development is more supply and certificate oriented. Further, you may not know it, but Kenyans are crazy about certificates. We gather these things like, sand on the seashore, and we are very proud to have them. But do they translate into us being more employable, us actually working better, being more productive? There's a question there. So we need to speak to the demands of the labor market today. We know that the world of work, and indeed work itself, is changing. It requires different skill sets. The curriculums that we have in our learning institutions need to be alive to these realities of the labor market. So it is important that we keep monitoring the changes and we keep doing what we need to do to see whether the skills that our people have respond to the dynamics in the labor sector. This is also important in ensuring that we harness the benefits of labor migration and that we just don't migrate the lower level skills, which is important, but also the higher level skills so that Kenyans and Africans at large can be employable in any part of the world. And we know that they are. There are many, many Kenyans succeeding in very sensitive, very highly skilled roles all over the world. Why does FKE do this? We are the Federation of Kenya Employers, as Stephen said. We are the most representative employers federation. Actually, we're the only employers federation in this country. And our members together employ more than 70% of the formal private sector wage employees in Kenya. But even as I say that, I hesitate because the formal private sector is very small. It's just a quarter of the working population in this country. So we increasingly also need to look at the informal economy. So our role as FKE is to build the capacity of employers and to influence the environment in which business is done. We do this through advocacy, through effective representation, through social dialogue, and through provision of value-add services. We have a huge role and a broad role in representing employers at national level, at sub-regional level, at continental level, at global level. And in all these forums, as I said earlier, skills is a big issue. Skills are essential assets of individual businesses and society at large. To cope with the rapidly changing labor market, workers need to benefit from lifelong learning. We need to embrace lifelong learning, all of us, so that you drive your own learning, you drive your own reskilling, you drive your own upskilling. It cannot all be done by the employer, much as the employer would want to do that. You need to look at yourself, look at the skills you have today, what are your ambitions, what are your career goals, what are the needs of the labor market, and what can you add to the retinue of skills you have so that you can compete in this increasingly complex world. So training providers also need to adopt a more agile and flexible approach to planning, implementing, and evaluating the courses that they run, the programs that they have, so that they are in line with these changes that we're seeing in the labor market and new and emerging sectors, such as the oil sector, renewable energy, we're talking about climate change, digitalization. What skills do we have? So the training programs we run must fill the skill gaps that we have and address the imbalances between supply and demand to meet the dynamics of the labor market. We as FKE had to cope. When COVID happened, we had to cope with a new world. And we're all coping with the technological changes that have happened in the world and which have impacted the labor market. So things are happening so fast. Now we are talking about ChatGPT. I still have to figure out what that is. But I'm sure many of you are using it to do research. So today, the reality is that many employers are saying they cannot find the skills they need to fill the vacancies they have, And yet we know that there are many people who are looking for jobs and can't find that job. What is this paradox about? We hope that this skill survey will inform this kind of decision and will help us understand better. To be up to date with industry trends, FKE periodically carries out surveys to inform our advocacy activities. One of the areas we focus on is surveys such as this. In 2018, we did commission and carry out a similar study, which we called Skills Mismatch among employers in Kenya. This year, now, we have carried out a survey on skills demand among employers in Kenya. The main objective of this survey was to provide information on skills demand by employers in the post-COVID-19 era. If we can talk about the post-COVID-19 era. We were just talking with Fadul at the table there. Actually, COVID is here. It's not really, we don't really have a post. It keeps re-emerging. And in Europe, there are new strains of that. But certainly, it's not anywhere near as scary as the first era of COVID that we have. So although we say post-COVID, we know it's the reality we live in today. But we believe that the information from this survey will inform decisions and will also look at skills demand, skills dynamics from the demand side of the labor market. Specifically, the intention of this study was to generate information on skills demand, information, communication and technology, and digitization, green shift, and green competence, which are hard to find to fill vacancies. More details of this survey will be presented, you see later in the program. There's a presentation there by Stephen Obiro, who headed this survey. He is the head of advocacy consulting and partnerships at the Federation, an economist in his own right. So I would like to call on all our learning institutions to work together with employers to ensure that the skills that are channeled out of those learning institutions meet the demand in the job market. We can do this in many different ways. One is just regular communication and collaboration. We've been trying to get on some boards where skills are discussed. We're glad that increasingly FKE has been included in the boards of TVET, the National Qualification Framework, the National Employment Authority, National Industrial Training, and many others, so that we can get the voice of employers heard. So regular communication, collaboration, serving on advisory boards, running internship programs where the learning institutions actually come to check, to supervise what the students are learning, because what employers tell me is that they're willing to open up their areas of work, their companies, their workplaces to students, but then the learning institutions that send them don't have a program of learning, they don't come to supervise, they don't check, so it's all left on the employer. So we need robust internship programs that clearly delineate what is the role of the employer, what is the role of the learning institution, what is the role of the student, and how can we maximize this for the good of the student, so that when they come out, they are fully baked, if I may use that word to refer to a human being. Because for a long time we were talking about half-baked graduates. I don't like that terminology, but you know what it means. So facilitating internships and apprenticeships to have hands-on learning. Looking at the curriculum to be industry relevant, professional development opportunities for these learners, customized training programs. So having customized programs that, in partnership with employers, that support the learning of students. And finally, areas of job shadowing, visits to industry, and carrying out research such as the one we have done and which we are launching today. One final area I'd like to highlight in terms of, so how do we make this better, is just looking at the area of soft skills that our learners have, because you can acquire all the technical knowledge that your professors, your lecturers, your teachers can give you. But some areas of soft skills, which we're increasingly realizing is a gap, is something the student inculcates, the learning institution also inculcates, such as communication, how do you take correction, teamwork, problem-solving skills, These are challenges that employers are reporting. We need to incorporate them into the curriculum. I frequently complain about the stayability, if that's an English word, of the students in jobs. Young people come, they don't want to be corrected. But maybe the way we correct, as those doing the correcting, also needs to be looked at so that we can make it possible for young people to stay on in a learning program for at least 6 months, 1 year, to be able to learn something and pick some skills. I want to conclude by once again thanking our partners. I mentioned the partners that are present in this room, but we also owe a deep debt of gratitude to the Confederation of Norwegian Enterprise, NHO, who is our sister organization in Norway, and they have supported us as FKE for over 10 years in doing this kind of thing. As I mentioned earlier, we have ADMI. I suspect the lady who's at the high table is from ADMI. Karibu sana. And nEXFORD University, we really do appreciate as FKE your support that have enabled us to do this survey. FKE has a huge role, but we're just a secretariat of employers. So a lot of things we do in partnership with friends such as you. I want to thank the various industries and training institutions whom we continue to collaborate with on skills development. By fostering a strong partnership between learning institutions and employers and partners such as the ones I've mentioned, it is possible to create an educational system that produces graduates who have the right skills, the right knowledge, the right attitude needed in the ever-evolving labor market. So we stop talking about skills mismatch and we talk about a meeting of the skills needs of the labor market and the employment needs of the graduates. Thank you very much once again for being present here this morning.